Three, two, one, and we're live.
We're live.
Yeah,
Passionate
we're live.
learners and teachers worldwide, you are live with Boom and
Fluency.
yes, that boom boom. DJ Boom and Fluency. I think you agree when you learn with boom and fluency, that flow. And we are here bringing you educators, exceptional educators from all around the globe. And we have with us, Boom, tell us who we have here. We have a very important, passionate educator here with us. I mean, how do you even introduce this fellow?
I don't know. When I saw what Andrew has built in the metaverse or EduMetaverse, I honestly couldn't believe my eyes. The story is I was invited by Alisher, also a wonderful person who decided to make a YouTube channel about the metaverse, and he invited me to kind of to be a reporter on what's happening in the education part of the metaverse. And for this program, I was doing the research, looking at what's what are the cool apps for English learners or for just for learners, like what exists, And I saw a couple. I wasn't like really impressed. I'm like, well, okay, great, like. Early, early creators. And then I saw Andrew, and I was blown away.
Can I just gonna chime in before you go any further? If I'm not mistaken, 24 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours, something before that happened is sort of when we started saying EduVerse as like the term, like we stopped saying Metaverse. We had this EduVerse festival. You came up with that term, and we were just sort of playing around with it. It sort of came like officially into our vernacular, and then you found the EduMetaverse.
And imagine what I felt when we were talking about the EduVerse and bringing the best educators together so that we can create together and build this world, etc. And then all of a sudden, I see that
it's already built.
It's built by Andrew. Yeah.
Wow. I don't know. Maybe there's a few out there, but I've not seen one. But yeah, it's interesting. So, thank you so much for all your kind words. I'm sort of like, they're talking about me, but it's very nice to say those things. I'm glad you really like it. So I'd say there's a lot of love. And there's a lot of work gone into it, but when you hear your reactions and people come in and they see it and they say such lovely things, it's great. So it's really good. And the biggest critics are the students we build it for, and they obviously write. So I'll show you something. They write some of the nicest things.
Good for them.
They're also the hardest critics.
Keep you on your toes.
Why doesn't that work? And it's like, oh my god.
Yeah. Because Andrew, they are playing the games that are built by multi-billion companies, having thousands of people developers work there.
And it's not just that. It's like so what we're trying to do, I guess, like there's Fortnite, and then there's education in the metaverse. So it's like I'm going to try and make it to compete with things like Roblox and that sort of stuff. And but trying to put education, but at the moment education is so dull that you only have to introduce maybe a small element of the gamification to make it engaging. So at some point it will probably sort of fade off and they'll be like, no, I've seen it. But at the moment now it's just like you open Pandora's box and it's exponential.
So Andrew, tell us the story. So there were no EduMetaverse. There were no 30 incredible worlds all interconnected that that are for creative writing, or like the world with a stage where you go into the VR and like all of these things. Like, what made you build all this? What's the backstory?
Well, so I've been teaching for well over 20 odd years. I've been in classrooms and working with students, and then sorry, excuse me. I've eaten mince pies too early in the morning. So basically, then I started working with schools and becoming an Apple Distinguished Educator. Apple Learning Specialist. So as a teacher, going into schools and showcasing the iPad and using it in a transformative way. And I was doing that as a self-employed as my own person. And then COVID happened. We couldn't go into schools. I looked at what was happening, and then within weeks, you could see the Zoomification of everything. And it was just basically, let's do Zoom, let's do worksheets. And I thought there's got to be another way here, and there's going to be a way for me to get back into it. So I started to have a look around, and then found Spatial and Frame and a couple of others, and started building in there. I taught myself Blender. Oh my God, don't even go there to start with. Blender as a way of making the models was, I'd say it was, I'm going to just use the polite term and say it was tough. There are other words I could use, but that as a educator, I'll probably keep it clean for your podcast. And I just taught myself enough to be able to sort of create a few things, and then learn from there. And I even went on to Airtasker and asked for some help and watched YouTube clips. And because at that point we were in lockdown, so Sydney in Australia was in lockdown for about 3 months. So I had three months to sort of build all this stuff, and then I just kept building. It was ridiculous. And I thought, oh, and then what I actually started thinking about was all of the lessons I ever did in the traditional classroom that worked or were, I'd say really good, but you have those successful lessons that work really well. And I started thinking, if I could take that lesson and build something around that lesson, that's got to be a recipe for success, surely. So whatever worked in the classroom, I then went and built a world around it. Like the Mars stuff was, like, we did some really cool stuff with Mars. Now we can be on Mars, and the whole class can be on the surface of Mars doing the lessons that we did in the traditional classroom. So, and I use this phrase quite a lot, and you can't put a price on that in terms of engagement. And it was just unbelievable. Like, we had everybody coming in. There was myself in one location. There was their actual teacher in another location. The kids were coming from all over. So we had like 35 students and teachers all working together. And then what was great about that was that they could actually leave and go back into their own world. And then when they wanted contact with other students and contact with us as educators, they could come back to us on the surface of Mars, find us and say, hey, Wright, blah, 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 blah. What about this? What about that? And so, yeah, it was pretty incredible. It was an amazing time. And from that early beginnings of making a couple of worlds, I started thinking, this is just limitless. And I got in touch with the guys from Frame, Gabe from Frame VR, who was just amazing, and Ravani, and all of those guys were just fantastic. And they just helped so much to be able to sort of give us the scope to be able to build up and up and up. So yeah, and here we are, sat in the metaverse of 30 plus worlds. And I haven't slept for about 3 months, but yeah.
But it's worth it, I imagine.
Yeah, it's pretty funny because it's like people, I think for me, because I'm a teacher, educator, I'm not a developer. I don't do sort of like, I don't make games, I don't do any of that sort of stuff. So it's this sort of brand new branching out, but I'm very, very close to it. So I'm sort of, because I'm building it and I'm in it and I'm looking at it, I feel like I'm looking at it like this. Whereas when I speak to other people who come and visit and just see it, and then their reaction is very different to what I think is like, is this okay? Is this going to work? And I'm sort of, you sort of get filled with self-doubt about whether it's going to work. And then you see people's reactions when they drop in, they're like, yeah, which is great. And I guess that's affirmation, right? So you need people to affirm what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was interesting.
I have so many questions, but Fedor, I kind of want you to.
Come on. Jake, you always like, I have so many questions, but Fedor, but
throw this one. Yeah, I'll throw one at you. I mean, when you were talking earlier about how the kids come in and they're kind of like, oh, maybe change this, fix that, like, or do you feel it's because and Fedor made a kind of joke about, oh, maybe they're on Roblox or Fortnite, and so they're making comparisons. So I just, before I ask my next question, is that what you mean when they're saying like, oh, you should do it this way or that way? Is it because they're making comparisons, or is it are they things that you want to do but you haven't done yet, or don't have the time or the tech yet to do?
There's probably an element of all of those in that. I think for the students though, they are so bombarded by gamification, whatever they have, Fortnite and stuff like that. But interestingly, when they come into the world, it's more about exploration. So I try and add in an element of exploration. Go and find this task, go and find this activity, and that is the hook. That when they come, they'll find the lesson, and it's that. And I honestly think that a lot of it is because it's just worksheets. It's just been just worksheets.
Yeah.
Go to Google Classroom and find your activities for the day. So for them to come into a virtual world, into a metaverse, into a learning environment that is so hopefully like enriched and engaging, and then you've got them. I mean, that's the thing. You've got. They feel familiar. They feel comfortable with the controls. And it's like, and then there's that there's that moment when they're like, this is gamification, but this is learning. And that is that magic moment where I can do this here. And then I think that's where you start going into the realms of education 3.0, where learning takes place everywhere.
And when we get further with that, we won't be able to imagine what it was like before. To me, I feel like it would be like, imagine like the one-room schoolhouse with like the slate and like the chalk. You know what I mean? We can't get our heads around how that we can appreciate that it was like that, but we just can't imagine. I think the whole worksheet idea, whether it's in physical space or online, is just going to be the same type of feeling, right?
Yeah, and I think that one of the big things I wanted to avoid was the concept that, okay, so when we had Zoom, you could do Zoom and then we could share the screen and look at a worksheet. So what I wanted to do was to avoid having the metaverse and for them to be able to go in and find a worksheet. So I wanted that. I've got an absolute loathing of worksheets. So I think in a year, we now coming up to 2022, and we're still handing out worksheets in a world where there are so many different things that we could do. And that is not to say that I haven't done them myself, because I know as a teacher, after 22 plus years, there are times when that has to happen, But I think less reliance on that, and more. What my hope is that more people see how simple it is to get into it. Because I think there's a massive fear factor, right? I feel like people are terrified of technology. And I think the biggest holdback is fear from for the teachers, fear from education departments that are locking things down because what does this do? We're not quite sure, and fear from principals and whoever, and the fear of the unknown. But I think if you saw it and you watched it and you saw the re-engagement of these students, the coming alive of like, and then finding a love of learning, because I mean that doesn't happen with worksheets.
No, but also if you look at educational, like, I mean, go back a pretty long way, certainly to like the, beginning of the 2000s, and find, CD-ROM games and online, like learn educational stuff. Like, there's a lot of stuff. So there were worlds, right? But they weren't worlds where students had so much creative control and exploration. So to me, I feel like it shouldn't be, like, to somebody that really understands the value of, technology, like with education and graphics and sound, and to just see like, wow, this is like what that should have been, or however you want to look at it, where it was always going to head, and be like, we're really getting there, getting close, where it's not about replacing reality. It's about replacing those worksheets. It's about replacing those CD-ROMs, those spaces that were learning through computers, but it was just so flat.
Yeah, one of the kind of the basic examples that they always talk about is when the new technology comes, first thing we do is we try to do the old thing with the new technology, and go to photography and the video. And like they all say, how about the first movies were basically like moving pictures, or like theater, camera, and everything is happening. But then slowly but surely we start to realize, wow, you can zoom in, you can zoom out. This can be in different places, not just one set. This can be with green screen. This doesn't have to be just people. This can be creatures, and then it doesn't have to be one thing. It can be like a TV show. And like now compare photography and the video, the movie industry, it's a completely different like thing and a different way to do it. And I think in education now, like going into the metaverse, like we definitely start with like, oh, now it's like Zoom, but also I can move backwards and forwards, but this is so much more, and there are so many, like we will basically learn to educate in a completely new way because this technology will allow us to do things that we can't even comprehend right now. But I think it's really important to kind of remind each other and play and experiment and kind of go out of this traditional kind of, oh, it's just another room like a classroom but a digital one, to what does it really allow us to do? And Andrew, like, do you have some vision and like ideas of where it can be going?
Yeah, this is where I terrify all the teachers. They're like, no. I do, and I think, in all seriousness, I look at what we've been through, and like for the last 2 years, the COVID pandemic, which you just can't ignore. My worry was that we would start to implement this technology and we would start to use it. I mean, and I'm not just talking about my worlds, but generally the whole concept of learning online, and revolutionize that. And I don't say that lightly, but whether it's my work or somebody else's, my fear was that we would go back from lockdown and just embrace everything we've done before. We'd go back to the classroom, we carry on the way and I think now, if this has taught us anything, we cannot afford to do that. And to answer your original question, I do tend to carry on a little bit, so my mind's like when it comes to talking about this, but I'll try and be more succinct. But the concept that the way I see it is that with these worlds, or with whatever world you use, whether you use mine or you go and do your own or whatever, this has to happen, because I would love to see a physical classroom alongside a parallel virtual classroom. So there are two happening together. So schools embracing that concept that you don't have to just have it in the physical classroom. So, for example, if a child says, "Oh, I'm going on holiday," which happens all the time, and the parents say, "Where's the work set aside for my child?" And you're like, "Whatever." Go to here, and you've got your own tote tray, digital tote tray, linked to your account, whatever, and everything is there. So the way I envision it as what do you want to call Education 3.0 in this space is that you have a physical and then a virtual classroom side by side, and they're always accessible. Like you can always pick up stuff, or you could have events in there that were just like, you could bring in experts from all over, teachers from wherever, and it wasn't just your teacher. You could share teachers and that sort of stuff. So that's how I see it going forward. Whether it will happen, I don't know. We're mired at the moment, and I genuinely feel that education is mired, especially here at the moment. And I think we need a job. And I thought COVID would have been it, but and then maybe it will. But I'm hoping that we don't go back to the way.
Yeah, Andrew. Another thing that I noticed, and again, like reading all the smart heads of our time, it's always like the hope and the kind of getting there, but it's kind of also, oh, but VR, like we all hoped VR will make it, and then everyone looked at VR and like, oh, it's actually not like changing the world immediately, but then it does.
It's a very slow ramp up.
It is.
I think that's the thing. I think if you look at that, and I think maybe somebody on the outside looking at these worlds and not really understanding them thinks, oh, you've got to have a headset, you need VR, you need this, you need that. Especially, I'm like, you don't need anything other than the browser. Yeah. If you can use Zoom, you can use this. It's just the same, except now it's you've got the controls and you're physically. And the way I would describe it is being present in the moment. You're not present in a Zoom call. You just sat there passively listening. The sort of tech allows you to become present in the moment, to share that moment. And again, I keep using the phrase, you can't put a price on it, but you can't put a price on that. To be able to be there together with your classmates in a world that is geared around whatever you're learning at any one moment in time, that is priceless. Like, and you can see it. And I'm not just saying this because we made this and then it just sits there. It's being used with classes. It's being used with students. And so the feedback from the students, you can hear them. They can go around and check the videos within the halls. It's just like, you can hear them just like squealing and, oh my goodness, look at this. And it just is almost like it's electric.
But I think just how wonderful that it's also happened before in social gaming spaces. So it's not like you're trying to tell kids. I mean, the teachers is something else. I understand,
that's
but it's not like you're trying to tell kids. It's not like you're trying to convince kids. Here's this new educational thing. You know, it's like we're learning from those social spaces. I mean, you can see, like, you know, my kids, for example, just meeting friends, making relationships in places like Roblox, and, you know, and learning things. So it's like when you see them doing that, it's like, it's a no-brainer. Like, you know, this is where things are heading. It's just a matter of time, and people like you who take the initiative and spend all this time creating this wonderful stuff. I mean, that's what's up, man.
Yeah, and Andrew, like, I know when we have these insights about the future, and it's really cool when we get kind of confirmations that kind of proves to us that we are, you know, not crazy, but that's like, I'm this way. But in terms of like the classroom next to the classroom, when I got Oculus in the beginning of the year, so I've spent like a year with it. That was exactly my metaphor. And I was saying, like, people, I feel like I was in Virginia in this house, and I feel like I added another room to my apartment. Like, I used to have two, and now there's three, and in the third room you can go anywhere. So it's like like you added the room with endless possibilities. Like,
but exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying about education. If you have your physical, and you're there, right? But you can go, and I think one of the taglines we've got on the website is, I say we, it's a royal we, because it's just myself and the dog. So
I was going to ask you. That's one of my questions. I was waiting to ask you, so thank you for answering.
I wish it was. There is literally, I teach it is just myself, but I've got so into the habit of saying we, because when you meet people, it's like, oh, okay, he's got a big company, but I don't. It is literally just myself and the dog. So I've got a little pug. But yeah, and so I've totally lost track of what was I saying before. I started thinking about my dog, and then I lost it.
Oh no, you were saying
about the hybrid idea, like you have your physical classroom and you have this other, and it's not replacing one or the. It's
sorry, like exactly like you were saying about having your third room could be wherever. That's exactly what I'm saying. So your classroom is physical, but your virtual classroom is limitless, and the people you can invite, if you can get hold of them like experts, is limitless. So explain to me how that is not the future of education, because you look at EDU 3.0, what is it? It's like any classroom, anywhere, everybody teaching. But that is,
I don't think people are going to argue or resist for too long. I mean, I think things like,
I don't think you can.
I think things like virtual field trips, I think, you know, places that aren't geographically privileged, financially privileged, you know, are going to obviously, you know, take advantage of this stuff, or ought to, right? And then we'll see, like, how could you not then think like you are about it, like that you have your physical classroom, and then, you know, you take field trips, you go places, you do things, you go to museums, you have people visit performers. But if you can't afford that, or you're not in the right place in the world to have that happen, then, you know, so I think that's why it's going to happen, right? I mean,
it has to, right? Because this is the great leveler. Like in the past, it's all, you know, a lot of things. If you're a private school, and there's nothing wrong with that, but you've got the money to do whatever you want to do. You know, if you're a tiny little school in outback Australia and you've got the internet but nothing else, all right, here we go. Because you know what? All you need is a browser. Let's go. And the entire class can go anywhere they want to go. You know, so we've got, like the classic example, the funniest one was when we were looking at weather patterns. And the kids were like, oh. I said, all right, let's go to Everest. And they're like, what? This is the very first time. They were like, what? I said, well, we're going to go to Everest. And they're like, well, go to Everest. What do you mean? I said, well, I'm going to send you the link, and then we're going to go. So we sort of didn't prep them. We sort of just took them. And then I've got another one, which is like an aeroplane. I don't know if you've seen it. It's called the Sky Bus. So the first thing we did is we gave them the link for the Sky Bus. So they all jump onto the Sky Bus. And I said, get a seat. And they're just losing their little minds because, oh my goodness, this is an airplane. I can hear the sound, and the tannoy comes on. We've got all the little sound things. Whatever. So I said, ladies and gentlemen, we're off to Everest, and we're going to look at weather patterns. And we did the chalk and talk. They were just losing it. And then we switched the scene to Everest. They're at the base camp of Everest. They can hear the wind whistling through. they're never probably ever going to go to Everest, but to be able to learn about weather patterns, you know, and one of the students said the line that I will use, might copyright it. She said, "Well, at the moment it feels like we can't go anywhere. In here, we can go everywhere." And that was the line that I was like, if I take one thing away from that, it's that line. And I said, "Can I use that line? So I'd like to use it on my website." She said, "Yeah, of course." So that line came from one of the students in the world, and we couldn't go anywhere. We were in lockdown for 3 months, you know.
But here we can go everywhere. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. That's exactly it. Yeah. It feels like we can't go anywhere, but here we can go everywhere. And that really made me think, wow, yeah, that's right out the mouths of babes, you know. So that's pretty cool.
So cool. So cool.
Are you muted?
You're muted, Boom.
Yeah, I was saying one of the future skills that I think is really important, and I learned it from the Naval Ravikant podcast. He's actually one of the great educators of our time, even though he doesn't, I think of himself as an educator. Yeah, he's an entrepreneur, the founder of AngelList, and he's talking to all the smartest people. And I think it was a conversation with Tim Ferriss and Nick Szabo, the person like behind the blockchain initially, and they were talking about the quantum thinking. This is the kind of thinking where you can hold the opposing opinions or like both truths in without contradicting each other. And I think as humanity we are so bad at it, because most of the time we're like, if we think that VR is good, that means we think that the IRL is bad and VR will completely destroy. So we have to protect our children and protect our world because we will lose them in the digital space. And I'm like, people, like, would you like a room in your house that takes you anywhere? It doesn't mean that other rooms in your house have to disappear. It doesn't mean that you have to spend all that time in that other room. Well, if you don't have incentives to come back from this other room, maybe you have
that's another issue.
What's wrong with your world? Like
it's like any technology, right? You go back and you read, go on microfilm and look at old newspapers or whatever, and you see the same things happening, right? The telephone. Oh, nobody's ever going to want to see anymore. Or movies, nobody's ever going to want to why would you go to Paris when you can see it in a movie? It's like it's the same. It's the opposite, right? If you experience something in a movie, and I think it's going to be the same for people in virtual spaces, right? It's just going to get you more excited to go if you can go. But if you can't, just like movies and other entertainment. Oh, another great example, one of my favorites, is when recorded music came out. Oh, no one's going to go to the opera anymore if they hear the opera on the. Yeah, but who could? Some people didn't have the right skin tone. Some people didn't live, some people didn't have the money to go to the opera. Some people didn't live, it's like, are you kidding me? Right. And look how, live music and recorded music coexist. And it's the same, I feel, what we're talking about here. Real life.
And then you make a really good point there. And then, like, the whole thing about parents being worried that their students, their children are going to be lost to the screen. Where have you been for the last 20 years? Like, you realize like your kids are already there. All we're doing is taking that and turning it into education, right? If you're worried that this is going to be, you're worrying about the wrong things, because what we're doing is changing that fact that they're on their screens all the time and playing games to, that is the hook. If that's the hook, you hook them in, and then we use the same technology to educate them. That's like not a bad thing. That's a really, really good thing.
Exactly. And
to bring them in.
Talking about the time, if we are stuck with the education model from the 17th, 18th century, that is takes 10 years or whatever a year, that actually in the new effective education can be taught in 3 weeks, and then you save up months of
Yes.
life, the most kind of important, time of their life, of their kids, so that you can take them to operas outside to meet friends, etc., because they don't have to sit, like, which is also bad for their body, like drilling the stuff that they can just understand and make their own. What are we talking about?
But it's mindset shift, and I think that's the problem we're coming up against, is that I learned the same way my parents learned. My parents learned the same way my grandparents learned. My grandparents learned the same way. It's been that way for hundreds of years. What other establishment has the same pattern? If you imagine,
when you think about, like, sitting on the grass or the dirt, listening to somebody who's smarter than you and more knowledge of you talking about something, right? And you're learning from them. That's the beginning of time until now. Like, it's never been like, you look at technology in medicine, you look at technology in science, anywhere, right? And it's been happening. And here it's the first time really since digitalization came in, since the internet, all of this, that education has had that change. So it makes sense, right? That it's going to be harder for people to adjust. It's not something that happened incrementally the same way it did in other areas with technology.
That's 100% right. Like, I used to, pre-COVID, when we were the APLS team were going out and presenting and doing conferences and talking to teachers, I used to say the same thing. I mean, if you went to the doctors and he pulled out a bone saw, you'd be happy about that? Or a rusty syringe, or you wouldn't. You'd freak out. You'd be like, what is? But we accept it in education. We accept the fact that, well, that's how we've always done it. No, that is not good enough anymore. We're 2022 coming into. It is not good enough anymore to accept where we're going. And it will take people to use whatever version of this they use to, and I said this before, to take this and to use it and to be seen using it effectively and to get the results from it. I mean, but the problem we've got is standardized testing is king here. And that's the problem. Everybody's results, results for standardized testing. That's how the principals get paid. There's got to be some performance pay issues. It's like, no, this is all wrong, because where's the standardized test for creativity? There isn't one. And yet,
I think that's a tough nut to crack. But I'm optimistic that if we can push through with these, innovations and that we're seeing, like what you're doing, the other stuff will crumble. It's just a question of when.
I hope so. But we need an army. I like Dumbledore's army. We need an army.
But it won't happen, I think, if we try to fight it directly. I think we just have to keep going.
Oh, guys, it's blockchain, and it's the same thing. Kind of look at how Elon approaches the EV, for example, issue. He can hope that the governments will issue a note to change from the gasoline cars to electric vehicles. Never gonna happen. Or he can make a freaking best car, sexiest car that everyone wants in the world. And then guess what? They will start to catch up and say, hey, can we also participate? Like, hey, let's give it a go. So we shouldn't wait for anyone to allow us to do it. We should just do it. And that's what it's all about. Perfectly.
I think a lot of it. So someone said to me today, well, what have you done this for? And it's like, well, if this maybe starts the ball rolling and you come in and you see it and you realize that you don't need to have a degree in astronomics or theoretical quantum physics to be able to do this. You can just come in and if you can see it and you can try it yourself, then we get the ball rolling. So in many ways, this is like a showcase of, I mean, it's my work, but like, it's basically doable. And I'm no genius by any stretch of the imagination. Have a word with my wife. But like, literally, it's about, this is doable by every.
Argue with her.
That's something we haven't even touched on yet. Is like the whole idea of like other people helping to build it, including learners and people be able to, like, teachers who have wonderful ideas being able to get to work and do things that they could never have imagined doing before.
ultimately, what would be amazing, and what we've started to do. So I work with a school here in Sydney. I'm embedded with one particular school, which is amazing, right? And so we're maybe next time going to start thinking about having the parallel classrooms alongside the real classrooms. So it's all starting to happen. So we're going to try and put it into practice. What Frame allows us to do, and I use, and it's not to say I'm advocating one or the other, I use Spatial frames, whatever, and I sort of settled on Frame because I think it's very, very student friendly. But what that will allow us to do is each child is going to get their own frame with maybe 5 people that can visit at any one time. So now you can start to see like and I'll show you one of the kids wrote earlier on. I've started building my own.
Yeah.
And then that's when you've got them. That's when you think, right. So instead of doing a project on dinosaurs where you write it all up, you can still do all of that. But now you can bring in an animated dinosaur. Now you can physically stand next to one, and you can start to create these worlds. And if they're creating worlds, that's the catalyst for change. Then it will happen. It might take time, but then it's a new way of doing the same old stuff. And I think that's when it becomes incredibly powerful, when they start to build themselves. And they'll come in and they'll say, Mr. How do you build this? I want to learn how to build it. And then I'm silently chuckling because I'm just like, gotcha, good. Here we go. And away we go.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, so now, ladies and gentlemen,
enough talking about it. Let's get in.
See it. You might have to edit out. Just waffle. So let's have a look. So if I'm staring blankly at the screen, it's because I'm not looking at what you guys are doing. I'm sort of driving around here. So yeah, so just tell me where you'd like to go. So, you can have a look here. You can see. Can you guys see what I'm doing?
Perfect.
So this is my students I work with. I work with an amazing teacher called Mrs. Byrne, and this is her class. She's fantastic. So she's already testing everything with us, and so I've got a little bunch of mini testers here. And what we've done here is they were learning about coordinates. So you can see here we put the coordinates on the tree, and then they've got to go and find the treasure. So they're actually physically moving around. So they're putting it into practice. Here you can just see them sort of moving around. They're pointing at where they think the treasure is, and then I'll go and dig it up. Here it is. And then, so they're all like, you can hear them, you can't hear them, but they're whooping and cheering and that sort of stuff. So that's just maths. So we made a little island, and so they did maths there, yeah. There's a Christmas one. So we've got some particles. I think you're having your Christmas party in there, is that right? So yeah, so the whole thing is filled with all of the world. So about 30 plus, and you can just come here. I think we'll put the link right on the on the site so people can come in. This is Antarctica. So we're really interested in looking at how Antarctica has lots of research stations, and Australia has its own one as well. So here you can just see, I don't know if you can see that bit there. I use Microsoft Flight Simulator to create virtual flights, and then I put them into the actual worlds. So if we wanted to do some implicit teaching, we'll use the videos to sort of showcase it, and then they can walk around. So do you want to let's have a look? We can go to this one. So to go to it, you just click on it.
Let's go.
And it says link. So I don't know if you can also be in there as well at the same time. So.
Yeah. So, and the idea, to be clear, you can access it just through the browser, or you can use your VR headset and be kind of completely immersed. And that's the beauty of it, that it's like you don't need a VR to experience it and to teach there or to learn things there. And some people can be in VR, some people can be there through a browser. Like, it's really accessible, which I think is really important, and kind of could be something that could be stopping people from.
For sure.
Yeah, so there's me waffling on, and you can just unmute it.
Wow.
So this is actually Rothera Airport.
There's a lot of wildlife here.
I'll just turn me off. And then they come out, and so it's like, as a class, they get to spend time looking at what it would be like to work out here, and you can move. So, for example, these igloos will have lessons in there. At the moment, now there is a bit of an issue, because what's happened is with the latest update, all of the stuff has been reversed. So if you go in here, it's probably going to be. Can you see how everything's backwards?
Yeah.
I think what they've done is reverse the world. So I've got to come back in and reverse everything. But yeah, so this is research station, and each one of these little igloos has a physical activity for them to do in the real world. Maybe 3D modeling, or maybe, oh, he's fell over, or maybe a maths activity. And at the moment they're empty because we've just finished a scheme of work, and then we'll put it back in again when it's time to restart.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you can hear the wind, it's very windy up here.
Yeah, you can.
So there's that immersive element to here. So what we can do as well is, so for example, if I'm the teacher, I can go to adding a streaming screen. So here I can add a screen, share my screen. I can put on my webcam. I can have it as my avatar, you know, walking alongside. So we normally switch it off because it just saves bandwidth.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so I can, let's go back. So I'll leave that there just in case anybody wants to. And it's as simple as going and pushing the back button.
Yeah.
We'll go back to the Metaverse. And yeah, I can show you a couple of other ones. We've got lots of space in here. So this is the outside part. So how this works is, so this is loading back in again. So you start on the outside. Welcome to the EduMetaverse. So when you visit, you'll appear here and coming through the front doors. And down, what we've sort of done, one of my favorite, I'll take you to ancient Egypt. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, take us the show us the favorite.
We've got a little chalk talk, so you can click on the podium and you can go to the podium.
Oh.
And you do your talking. And here I've got a little thing that you can put your notes. So we can have distinguished guests. And you click on the chair, you go and sit on it. So you're looking out at whatever. So all of these are worlds that we built. We being me and the dog. Blended learning, so there's some maths, art gallery, there's social science, creative.
Let's be honest, Andrew. It's all dog, and you're just helping. Like you're just helping.
Yeah, to be honest with you, the dog's done everything, and
you're just taking the credit here.
That is one remarkable pug.
Yeah, literally the most cleverest pug, the cleverest pug in the world. So this is one of my favorites. I'm worried now.
Let's check it out. Let's go. Let's go.
Yeah, let's go. I've got a horrible feeling that everything's going to be backwards because they've updated. I think what Frame has done is that they do updates, but turn the worlds around, which leaves your models facing the wrong way.
Hey, Frame, if you're watching, please remember.
Don't you worry. I've told him loads of times. I'm like, oh, where's my models back to front? Yeah. So I don't know if you can see this.
Yes, we can totally see it. That's
so this has, so the one problem I've got with it at the moment is that basically there's a lot of you can change the photosphere. So you could actually be anywhere you want to go. So I'm going to just go to photospheres and look for Egypt or desert, and then you click on the photosphere. I'll just put this one in for now so that you can see that.
Yeah.
So it changes the photosphere. So this is interesting because this one has a whole series of lessons and stuff that you do. So they get to explore what it would be like to be an Egyptian. So you can come in here and we do a little bit of role play about what sort of life would be like if you were an Egyptian. Yeah. And then there's a series of, like everything's back to front. So I can fix that. So you can change. So if you're the world, you can change things. And so you can make the students become authors as well. Yeah, that's going to turn everything around. But this has it's basically about questions and stuff, leading questions that we could ask them.
Yeah.
There's also links, hyperlinks here. So here is a hyperlink to another website where they can build a cartouche, and then we can 3D print those cartouches. The name tags. But actually, the coolest bit is going in. I think going into the pyramids, the hieroglyphics on the wall. And you can have up to 35 students here. So again, that statue's gone missing because he's basically the other side of the wall because everything's turned around. I'm going to have to come in and fix all this. But yeah, so we have a series of lesson plans that we'll go to. There you go. And then come back out. So the whole world is explorable, and we can add in lessons at any time we want to. So on some of the walls, there'll be lessons. So they'll go around, they'll find out what they have to do. There'll be workstations and stuff. And there you go. Yeah. So I like it. I've actually been. So it's cool. And it's proper annoying that basically everything's back to front, but I will have to fix that. And yeah, so it's all
just another 2 sleepless months, and everything will be back to normal.
But that's the second time it's happened. So I've already reversed everything once. Yeah, I think it's. But like the guy in their defense, they are very, very good. Like if you've got an issue, you just get on the Discord and you just say, "Oh, this is what's happening here," and they're on it in a flash. So I have to say, Gabe and the Frame VR team are really, really good. They're always there to sort of help. But yeah,
that's great. But it also occurred to me too, though, Andrew. I mean, you're talking about how it's just you doing it, and we mentioned earlier how, once students can start building stuff more themselves. But I mean, what you just did, like turning those cats around, like that's something students can do too, right? I mean, you could have them go in and fix and play with things. I mean, when you think about it that way, it's like you can't compare that to. I mean, you could sort of compare it to like having like I don't know, some carpentry station in the classroom, and there's something broken, so the students go in and help fix the art area, whatever. But it's like endless. Talk about like the skills they could learn, and if they're like fixing their own worlds, like whoa.
Yeah, it's basically limited by our imagination and theirs. You can do it. So if you like, I basically try and create things around stuff that's in the curriculum, obviously for Australian curriculum, but I've also made stuff for the American market, like for the American curriculum. So there's what's great about it is you can change the scene. So in one scene, I might have an Australian dollar on the table, change the scene, and it's a US dollar. So it's always interchangeable. But so you got day and night cycles. You can do all sorts of cool stuff. Yeah. So hopefully, like once the students start to build themselves, then you're into another whole new ball game.
And are you at the stage where you're training people to do it? Or are you still the only person?
Yeah, without wanting to do a gratuitous plug about what I'm about to move into, yes. So my hope is that at some point, once it starts to take off, I'll be able to offer my services to anybody, to schools, to educators who want to learn how to do it. So in some ways, yes, it has to be a point where I'm going to have to maybe say, look, if you would like this world, it's possible to purchase that world. You can have it on your account, and you can do whatever you want with it. So we're in talks at the moment with a couple of companies. There's a lovely lady called who works for Octosmos, and she's brilliant. So we're sort of maybe working with her to sort of create something where people can come and go, I'd really like this one, I'd really like it. So yes, it's all going to happen. So check on the website. So if you go to the EduMetaverse.com.au, it'll be there. Sorry for the gratuitous.
There's no doubt in my mind that it's all going to happen.
Oh God, I hope so.
Moreover,
you can feel it. You can feel it.
Moreover, when people say, "Oh, where is it going?" My answer is, well, it's going where we're taking it in many ways, at least, in our collective universe. And now that our collective universe is getting bigger and bigger with what we've been doing with Jace, and Jace has access and me, to the world's most inspiring, most innovative educators that all have their, incredible products. And the idea here, and that's my pitch to you, Andrew, is if we come together, like, yes, we can be building this thing, but it's freaking hard to be building this world and also to be marketing them and also, to be. But we have people who, on the other hand, they have the audience, they have the followers, and they're thinking, oh, what is the next thing that I can like invite the followers to? And if we come together and we have, straightforward, clear incentives, and we have decided that, hey, why don't we do this together and share the ownership, collective ownership of this thing, and share the profit and the responsibility and everything, to the proportion of everyone's contribution, we can do so much more. So what we have in mind with Jace now is to kind of it's always kind of first, leading by example. Second, we shouldn't preach what we haven't proved ourselves. So what we were thinking, how about we bring together like the 5, for example, educators, like inspiring with complementary superpowers, and we kind of bundle up the stuff that we have say, hey, we have this, Jace has this incredible methodology, for ESL teachers and students, and then Andrew has the metaverse where it can all be realized. And then, Fedor has this, and like Shelly has this. And then we make a subscription out of it. But when like educators, they have to pay whatever, $15 a month. But for this, they get the editors and the program methodology and the marketing access to people and the mentions and the curation, etc. So it makes it almost like the offer is impossible to why would you say no to that? And then we operate on volume because it's digital. It can accommodate so many people, and the stuff that we built, the EduMetaverse that you've built in Australia doesn't have to be used in Australia. It can and must be used all over the world. Same thing with Jace's methodology. The stuff that he built shouldn't just be used by his students in Paris. This can be used with students all over the world. And then the educators don't have to come up with lesson plan if it's already made, and proven by so that's the thing that we want to try and kind of see if it sounds good. But now we need to prove it. And in order to prove it, we need to kind of create the first product, create the first subscription, and just give it our best and see. Because if we can prove that this works, this opens to me the whole universe of us educators coming together, bringing together our superpowers, and making these products that we don't have to depend on any administrators, any edtech companies, etc. We are our own.
Decentralized.
Yeah, it's definitely something we can talk about. Definitely. Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, just the more people can see it. I mean, at the moment, the EduMetaverse is open to anybody, and I guess you guys will put a link somewhere so that people can come and have a look at it. I mean, you can just wander in and check out the rooms. I mean, I showed you 2 of maybe 33, 34 that are already there that you can just sort of go and check out how we're using it as well, and actually seeing it being used for the students. So
exactly. And in this bundle, of course, what's open should stay open, by all means. But with when people subscribe to that, they get a little bit of guidance. They get our attention. They get sessions with us, and they get the methodology and the explanations of how it can be used. At the same time, we always stay open and accessible, and also so that people with ideas, can come in and become a part of
Contribute to it.
Yeah. So that's how I'm thinking about it. I don't see anything like that in the world.
No, not education.
We might as well,
Yeah. Well, at the moment, I think it's very much NFTs. Blockchain. It's all about museums and showing art galleries and making money off of NFTs, and that's all power to them. But that's not for educators. That's not going to be how I envision it being used, because it just doesn't work in those circles. So for us, it's got to be about engagement. It's got to be about the students. It's got to be about them just learning. And if it can increase their learning and increase their productivity and make them better people by educating them about more things, then there's a no-brainer really that this has to happen.
Yeah, it's learn to earn, though. I mean, I feel like when I think about teachers, and I know them so well from so many years of teacher training and gathering people together, as Fedor was just talking about. They are just dying to get out of their grinds of not that they don't want to teach, but they don't want the grind of teaching, right? Because they're also creating materials. They have ideas for online courses. They have ideas for books. They have ideas for, and I feel like, wow, we're really getting to a point where we could get teachers together to collaborate in ways that could never have happened before, and for teachers to what their creations, their product services be much more highly valued in Web3 than they would have than they have before. So that's just really exciting to contemplate.
Yeah.
I think
I think that for teachers there is a tipping point. You have that passion for the job and you love the teaching, but there is the grind. There is the fact that everything's thrown on top of you, the extra hours, that sort of stuff. And there does become a tipping point. And I think it's becoming more and more obvious as the more they pile onto teachers, the more the more you'll lose. Like these teacher shortages in the US, we've got teacher shortages
everywhere.
Shortages around the world. It's like that's happening for a reason.
Right? Absolutely. I mean, it's kind of like the Great Resignation thing, though. I mean, you could look at it. How do you want to look at it, right? You know, you look at people are disenchanted, apathetic, frustrated. Okay, fine, but I think the other side of it is just like, you know, the world is changing. Like, you know, we're moving. And I think if teachers are like, wow, you know what, like maybe there's a way that I can, you know, self-publish this book, or I can work with these people and I can reach more people teaching online and doing, you know, it's exciting. It's really exciting.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's a brave new world. And I think we just need to be able to showcase it and get it out there and say to people, look, I mean, like, and it goes back, I'm literally a teacher. So yes, I'm a specialist in whatever, but
so that
yeah. And so there is no magic behind it. There's no magic, and it genuinely is following your passion. So my passion is education, and it always has been, and in particular technology and education. So if I can get those two things together and push it out to a wide audience, which is what this is all about, then I've done what I wanted to do. And someone said to me the other day, but you're not making any money about it at the moment. I'm like, yeah, who knows what's going to happen at some point? Maybe it will kick off, and yes, it'd be nice to make money out of it. But I look at what we're doing and I listen to what the kids are saying, and it's like, do you know what? I go to bed at night and I know that I've made a difference, a positive difference. You can't put a price on that. And of course, it's great to have money and whatever, and it would be fantastic if somebody goes, hey, do you know what? We'll buy this X, Y, and Z. Amazing. But that's never, ever, ever been my modus operandi. It's never been my primary concern. Is to make.
Well, that's why you built what you built. If it had been, you wouldn't. You wouldn't have done what you've done.
Yeah, like I said, there's no money in education. But you know, at the end of the day, I do go to bed and I think maybe I made a difference. Maybe I have done something, and that for me was what it was always going to be about. And that sounds really, you know, like I'm making myself out, and I'm not making myself out to be anything that I'm not. It is a passion, and I can see what we've been doing at the moment, and it's not good enough. And we do need to make a change, and we do need to embrace new technology and just to keep up with the world around them. It's no good just saying, like, you know, you can't just come into school and slam the brakes on, listen to me, I'm the font of all knowledge. You don't know any more than Google. You know, these kids got more power in their fingertips than the entire NASA program had. You know, like decades ago. So, well, you know what? So we should be using it. And it's not just about blindly putting the tech out there. It's about highly focusing that technology to get the results that you want. Education. You can't just put it out there and go, all right, everybody, off you go. Just a recipe for disaster. It's got to be laser focused, and it's got to be driven in such a way that their learning becomes exponential. And I truly, honestly think that where we're going with this is where that's going to be.
Amen. I don't think there's any. It was always going this way. That's the thing.
I didn't realize it, but If one positive comes out of this whole COVID thing, if there is one positive, maybe this is it. Maybe this is the jump start that we need.
Yeah, it pushed it
forward. Yeah, and if it's done anything, it's pushed it forward to the right at the forefront. But it's, I think the main stumbling block is going to be that people see it as, like I said, NFTs. You have to have a headset. It's all about making money. It's about blockchain, Bitcoin, blah, 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 blah.
But I think that's so temporary, really. I mean, I think we just have to ride that out. The way you look back at any technology and you see people.
Of course, it's going to become, initially, that's what it's going to always be about. But it will, I think if we can show more people, get in front of people and say, look, this is what we're doing. It doesn't take a huge amount of resources, but the payback for here is, And I'll stay in touch with you when we start again next term, and we have the two classes, the parallel and the real next door. We'll do another one, and we'll talk about how that's working. And unless you're putting it into practice, it's just pie in the sky. And I think having people actually doing it, seeing the benefits, showcasing that to principals, showcasing that to education departments, so that the fear factor is gone. That's the only time it will start kicking off.
Yeah. And also talking about it this way, like, and sharing our dreams and ideas, and then sharing the process, and celebrating the success, and highlighting the sun shining, like what they call in Netflix, sun shining our failures, like saying, hey guys, we've tried that didn't work, so maybe you want to, when you're doing it, maybe you want to like tweak it and do it in a different way. Time. So I think there's beauty in the process as well, and there's definitely beauty in doing it together and finding this gems of people like you, Andrew. Before you, we were talking to Matt, who is he's an influencer, but a tech influencer. He has 500,000 TikTok followers, 200,000 in Instagram. Wow. He was breaking down the process and the insights, etc. And Andrew, this guy has been doing, what did he say, like 20 videos a day publishing for 6 months, Andrew, before he got what he
testing and crazy.
And like 6 months, this is like building what you've built in a way, but at the same time, he's done it. Because like he is so crazy in the best way that like he doesn't stop. He just keeps going and building.
I know that feeling.
And so inspiring for all of us to kind of the confirmation, hey, when you keep beating your drum, talking about it, building what you believe in, and then come together with the people that are doing the same, you like this will happen.
I think so.
Totally.
We just got to keep the ball rolling.
Okay. And
so cool.
Thank you so much for.
And I hope we can have you back, because there's so much more we can talk about. But that was just
anytime. I'm finding it's weird. It's like the third one I've done, and I'm sort of like, me. It's a bit weird.
Yes,
but
you.
Are you kidding me? It's lovely that you guys have taken such an interest in it, and thank you so much for for pushing it out there and pushing it forward, because need people like you guys to be able to sort of showcase it. And so thank you very much, and I'm happy. I'd love to come back on again.
Cool.
We haven't told Andrew that Jace is a songwriter and a really famous ESL rapper. So we do a wrap up about each of our podcasts. So you can expect a song about the content of our talk today about you and the EduMetaverse.
Wow. Wait, are you going to do it now, or is it going to happen later?
It's going to happen later.
I'm going to make one later, but I can already think about, Andrew, the educator first in the metaverse,
Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, I tell you something for nothing. I've never had anybody make a rap about me, so that will be really
cool.
I'm looking forward to hearing it.
I look forward to doing it. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you,
nice.
guys. Thank you so much. And I'm more than happy if you want to just push it out there and people can come and have a look. And the link is the same link, so feel free to come in. And I'm sure I'm in there. So if you see me in there, come and say hello, because I think most people, they sort of drop in, and then they see somebody else in there, and then they run away. It's like, no, this is, you're meant to come in, see other people. Don't be frightened, and I can't say that enough. So if you do find myself in there, don't just exit the room and be like, oh no, someone was already in there, it's full up. No, you can put 50 people in there. So
Andrew, like, it's our mission now to bring this to the world. This is you don't have to you don't have to ask us, like, we'll start taking care of it. Like,
cool. Excellent.
Point one. Point two,
that's the plan.
We should lead by example. We should make more streams. We should show, how we meet there. We should whenever we are creating a community or a movement, it's up to us to create the behavior, and to show the standards that we then want to see. So we'll just start doing more. We'll just showing this, how two people meet in the Metaverse, and then they start talking to each other, and they find out, things about each other. We should write songs about it again, make little movies about it, etc. And this is how people start saying, "Oh wow, I want to do this too. Like, I want to talk to this person, like I saw in that little movie, or like a post or a song, and see what can come out of this." So yeah, it's up to us.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah,
sounds good. You let me know how that song's going on, and I look forward to hearing.
All right, cool, man.
Okay, that was a great one, Andrew. You're amazing. And
thank you so much.
Phenomenal. So cool, man.
Yeah.
So great to meet you. Okay, Andrew, take care. Have a great day.
Take care. Bye.